Hello everybody, I'm Dr. O, coming at you from Align Modern Health Lincoln Square, and we're here today to go over some lower body drills, mobility, and some strengthening exercises to get you guys up and moving during this quarantine. A lot of you guys are working from home, don't have the equipment or the exercises that you really want to do to keep moving, so hopefully this video will help you guys get up, moving, and moving correctly during this quarantine. So please stay home, stay safe, and follow along so that you guys can get some movement in during your day. So the first thing that you want to do whenever you're doing any kind of workout is make sure your body's prepped and primed. We're sitting at desks and probably unfavorable couches or chairs and things that you're not used to. That's ergonomically not as good for your spine. So we're gonna toss in a few keywords here. What we're gonna start with is something called Mackenzie press-ups. You know, what Mackenzie press-ups do is to help your body, the disc, the ligaments supporting your spine to move freely and to support the curvature of your spine. When we're sitting too long, it tends to kind of put more pressure on different curvatures of your spine that you don't necessarily want, and that causes some aches and pains during the day. So to avoid some of that, we're gonna do Mackenzie press-ups. All you need to do is get on the floor, and I'll show you what that looks like. If you've done any yoga, you'll know this is kind of like an upward dog. What you do is you put your hands here, using mostly your hands, elbows tucked in, and pressing up. What you really want to look for is that your hips are as close to the ground as possible. Some of you might have an easier time. Some of you might be a little bit higher. That's okay, just try your best and try breathing through it. Doing about 10 to 15 should really help your low back, especially when you're doing any kind of lower extremity, leg, glute workout. You want to make sure that your back and your low back is feeling pretty good before doing that. Good. Okay, now we're going to move into some hip mobility drills. These are called 90-90s. So you sit in a 90-90 position. I like to call this a cheerleader pose. But what you want to do is try to sit up tall. Your torso is going to be facing forward and not leaning to one side versus the other. And what you want to do is just kind of feel how, if this is comfortable, if this is nagging you a little bit, then try not to do it. Then we're gonna try to see on the other side, without using your hands to move, keeping them in front of you if one side's easier versus the other. And then what you can do here is kind of just move back and forth, making sure your hips are nice and mobile. And then from here, you're just gonna hip hike on up. You can do one side 10 times, and then switch over to the other side. One side's gonna be easier than the other for sure, but keep moving through it. It should get easier each time. Okay, so once you've prepped that, we're gonna switch onto our backs to do glute bridges. Glute bridges are such a great exercise because they help to activate the glutes and the hamstrings and make sure that you're prepped to do any upright body weight work, any weighted work. Okay, so just get a mat on the floor if you've got one, maybe a carpet that's more plush, hardwood's fine. But what you're gonna do is lay straight on your back. Arms are gonna be at your side, and what I like to do is bring my heels a little closer to my glutes, and you're gonna really drive through the heel. This is important because that's what's gonna activate the glutes the best. So you're gonna drive up and then back down. Another key thing that you guys need to be privy to is keeping your low back neutral and using just your glutes to lift up, because if you're curving too much, you're actually activating your low back too much, and that's what's gonna bother you. So you really wanna drive through the heels of your feet and try to keep a nice and neutral, and almost tuck your tailbone a little bit so that you're feeling the glutes. 10 of these should be pretty good. If you want a more advanced move, what I suggest doing is grabbing a band. Now, if you don't have a band, no problem. You'll still feel this and you're still priming your glutes up, but you're gonna have the band above the knee. Same thing, back on the ground. What you wanna do, the band is gonna want you to bring your knees together, but you're gonna wanna push them out. That's gonna fire those lateral muscles, the glute medius, and you're gonna keep driving up, making sure you're breathing from your belly, making sure you're driving through your heels and not curving your low back too much. If you want a weight here, you can put a weight in your hip bones and the pelvic bones in the front, and that'll give you more of a workout as well. Good. Another thing you can do, come up here, pulse out, come on down, pulse out, come on down. All right, so now that we did the glute bridges on our back, another great way to kind of fire up the hamstrings and the glutes is to get to your nearest chair or couch, because this is gonna really ramp up activation. So what you're gonna do is swivel on over, and this will be my pseudo couch for now, but we're gonna do elevated bridges. Okay, so you kind of wanna be a little flat. If you have a couch cushion that lifts up, that'll be pretty helpful to put your feet underneath so that you can feel the couch better. The couch cushion's a little more plush, so it might be hard for you to get your footing, but either way, it's gonna work just fine. Again, your arms are gonna be at your side, and what you're gonna do is just bridge up this way. Since it's elevated and you're digging your heels into the couch or elevated piece of furniture, you're gonna feel it more in the hamstrings. Again, what you wanna be aware of is not overarching your back, tucking it in a little bit, driving through the heels, keeping your arms on the floor and breathing. You can always do this with a band, and you can always do this, again, if you want more of a burn, to do it with a dumbbell, books, anything that's heavy to kind of place on your pelvic bones up front and just hike on up. You're gonna really feel it in your hamstrings and your glutes. Again, if you want it to be harder, single leg, and then the other side. Good. And then now what you're gonna do is the reverse. Sit still on the couch. What you're gonna do is get to the end. I'm gonna slide this out of the way so I get some good footing. You're gonna dip down a little bit. You're gonna feel it at the bottom of your scaps. So what you're gonna do, again, you can do this banded, you can do this with a weight. You're gonna dip under and thrust up. Dip under, thrust up. If you want a pillow under your neck so that you're not craning your neck too much, that'll be good. Again, you're gonna squeeze up on the top and you'll feel this in the glutes. I'm feeling it. This is hard. Okay, I don't even have any weights. Okay, again, if you don't have weights, you'll feel this just fine. All right, so now we're gonna get primed and prepped to do a squat. And so that's a very fundamental movement that you wanna make sure you're doing it right. So we need our hips to be nice and stable. We want our glute muscles to fire. We wanna make sure our torso and our spine isn't leaning forward too much. And then our knees, shins, and ankles are all moving properly. So a drill that I like to do before I do any kind of squat, whether it's a body weight squat or weighted squat, is something called a tactile frog. So again, you're gonna get down on the floor and you're gonna go a little wider than you would, say, if you were doing a child's pose. Child's pose works pretty great for this too. But what you're gonna do is have your hands underneath your shoulder, scaps are nice and locked in. You're gonna be a little wide here. Unlike a child's pose where your toes are kind of touching, you're gonna go a little wider. You're gonna just sit back as far as you can and kind of bring it forward a little bit so that your hips are getting nice and loosened and able to take that load, body weight or added weight when you're doing a squat. I kind of like to add in some external rotation, internal rotation with my leg. So basically you're pivoting at the knee to kind of open up the hips at different angles. Keeping your neck nice and stiff. You're still holding down, bracing your core, and then coming down into here. So once you feel like you're prepped and ready to go, a few passes at that will help. We're gonna come on up here, find some stable flooring, nothing with any kind of incline because you want it to be stable. But what you wanna do, let me move this out of the way, is get ready for your squat. So when you're doing a squat, super fundamental, what you wanna do is make sure that you're able to move your feet, playing around with how far your feet are. I like to do them a little wider with my toes pointing outward. That's just what works for me. A little wider than shoulder width. And what you wanna be really aware of is what your upper body is doing. A lot of misconception when doing a squat is kind of leaning forward, but what you really want to do is just drop down. You are going to lean forward a little bit, and that's just anatomically fine, but also my knee is going to go over my knee, and my toe, which is totally fine as well. So just doing 10 and coming up, breathing, pushing from the heel, doing some squats. You don't have to add any weight for this one. We're just gonna prime the hamstrings, the quads, and the glutes when doing them. Now people are like, how far down do I need to get? It's kind of whatever's comfortable for you. Trying to sit down as deep as you can. If you want to cue yourself, what you can do is find a chair and kind of do taps and sit back up. A couch, dining room chair, anything like that will be fine. Make sure you're breathing. Now what you want to do too, if you want to when you're ready with that, is grab your band. Again, if you don't have a band, not a big deal, but putting this through, what this is going to do is you're going to push this out with your legs. Same thing. Doing 10. And just constantly just checking where your feet are, that you're able to move your toes, and that all the weight's basically on your heels. But this should be nice and steady. If someone tried to push me over, I'm locked in. You can hold the weight if you'd like. Okay, so continuing with the squat series, what you want to do, if you have a band at home, is grab the band, and once you have your squat set up properly, we're gonna go into a different 3-way squat. So you're gonna go into the normal one, and then you're gonna plie back. What's really important about this is that your knee's not moving one way or the other, and that you're not twisting with it. You're just gonna dip down, go back middle, dip down, go back middle. You should try to keep high the whole time. The whole time, so that you're activating the muscles the entire way. And then what you can do too, if you have a stair at home, is to grab a stair. If not, you can just do normal reverse lunges. But getting out here, you can do this with a band or weight. Just stepping off your stair. If it's too much of a band, of course, take it off. And if you don't have a stair, the normal reverse lunges are fine. Again, you don't need to do it with a band. You can just do normal body weight. And then you can even get more distance. If you want to do it without the band too, plie squats. If you want to do something more challenging, you can grab this weight over here, and back in focus, and grab a weight, do a twist, come back up. Same leg, do a twist. Notice how my torso is nice and straight. Twisting, coming back up. You're really shooting from that front leg when you're coming up through the heel. So without the twist, it looks like this. You can twist, bring it in. The last thing we're going to do, don't drop this. Again, you don't need weights to do any of this stuff. I'll show it with a weight because it's called the goblet squat. You hold it like a chalice. It's going to be a sumo squat. A little bit wider, toes are pointing out. And you're going to dip straight down and then come out. Straight down again, try not to lean forward. You're shooting right from the heels of your foot, keeping this in front of you. If you want it to be really crazy, is hold it, dip down, side, side, middle, and up. So we're gonna dip down and up, and again, if you want it a little harder, dip, lateral glide, lateral. You wanna stay even. So it's like my butt's just sliding back, back, here, shoot up through the heels, squeezing the whole way up. Here, you're just hovering. This is a pretty advanced move though, so if you don't have the proper mechanics of a normal squat of this without weight, then we'll just build up to that. All right, so that is the conclusion of our video, lower dynamic stability and movement exercising while you're at home and staying safe. I'm Dr. Omar coming at you live from Align Modern Health in Lincoln Square. Again, when you're doing any kind of workout routine, you always want to warm up properly, so go ahead, feel free to rewind and see what the movements are that we did and that making sure that you're doing everything properly. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at dromar@alignmodernhealth.com. Thanks and stay safe.